Today we are talking about smart pots. Now, when I say the name smart pots, many of you may be thinking, well, I've got a smart watch, I've got a smart refrigerator, maybe got some smart shoes. Smart pots, however, have nothing to do with digitally transforming your garden. They are simply these pots down here. There's no ports to plug them into the internet. There's no power cables. They are a fibrous cloth-like container option for container gardening, as opposed to your more traditional pots that you've got sitting right back here, these hard plastic things. There's several differences right off the bat, and there are a ton of benefits to why you want to go with a smart pot versus a more traditional pot. For starters, the more traditional pot can get really hot in the summer. This plastic back here, it can just bake in the sun. And when it gets hot, the soil inside and that trapped water inside starts to get really hot, which, as you can imagine, isn't super great for the roots. That's one negative right there. As far as durability goes, in the winter, these things can also crack and become damaged when you get a freeze. So there's some durability issues there. There's some undesirable conditions that a hard traditional pot can bring about. These smart pots, however, will not crack in the winter. They will allow the plant and the roots to breathe properly so that they don't get too hot. They're not going to trap too much heat inside. They're going to allow water to drain out the sides and out the bottom in a much more ideal manner. And they are going to promote much healthier root growth. What they do with the roots is that in a more traditional pot, you may get roots that go all the way to the bottom or all the way to the edges of a pot, and then they just start to bind in there and go around in the circle and get all balled up. And they just keep going like that. A smart pot doesn't let that happen. The roots get right to the edge of the smart pots here, and then they, instead of balling up and going in a circle, they'll start shooting out offshoots of the roots, turning into a very complex fibrous root system. Why is that important? Very simply, all these different little fibrous root systems that come out allow you to soak up, as the plant, much more water. They take in a lot more nutrients from the soil. Much better scenario. That in turn leads to a healthier plant that gets bigger, grows faster, and produces more fruits and vegetables. Let's come on in closer, take a look at the smart pots, and take a look at growth in a smart pot versus growth in a traditional pot. Getting in closer here, you can see this is indeed a loose fabric. It is very sturdy though, and has been engineered very optimally to allow that airflow and water flow. You've got a seam here where they've sewed it together, and it comes in the shape, once you unfold it, of really a kind of circular pot that has a good flat bottom. We've got three here that are the same size. The smart pots come in various sizes. You can get, 3 gallons, 5 gallons, 7 gallons, 10 gallons. I think they've got 25 gallons. They've got some that come with handles so that you can hang them or carry them around easily. There's a lot of different options. Of course, they come with different costs, and you'll want to decide what you're doing with them. Sometimes you want to plant more than one thing in here. We've kind of paired some eggplant with, I forget the name of what this particular spice is that's growing here, but yeah, it grows really well with the eggplant. Same thing in this one over here. There's an eggplant with the same plant. On this smart pot over to the side, we've got watermelon, and we can have watermelon also growing in our big traditional pot. We're going to do a little comparison there in a moment. Now, one thing I want to call out about these pots is you go online and look for them. There's the Smart Pot brand, and there's a lot of other offshoot brands. Now, without getting too political, I'm going to provide links to the actual smart pots on Amazon. I recommend them first and foremost. They kind of were the original there, the pioneer of the technology. They're doing an awesome job with it, amazing reviews. And if you try to get some cheaper knockoff from somewhere a little less trustworthy, I would just put a word of caution there. Stick with something that you know is good quality and where you trust the materials and where it's being sourced from. Now, we've already talked a good deal about why the smart pots are better for the root system of your plants. How that impacts your plant growth is quite obvious, especially once you put it into practice. Here on the right, we have the smart pot that has watermelon in it. On the left, we have a traditional pot, also watermelon. Both were planted at the exact same time, and you can see the bigger traditional pot has much more dirt and is deeper. So putting all those comparisons in place, when we take a look at how these plants are actually doing, our more traditional pot did not get nearly as high with the watermelon growth. It has stayed quite small and had a really hard time kind of getting up there in the heat. Our smart pot has watermelon vines growing all the way to the top, figuring out where to go next, and it has taken over the fence behind it. We even have a watermelon, a big old watermelon growing on the back side of the fence there. We put a hammock in it to support the weight as it gets bigger. We've had several other watermelon female fruits start to grow on the plant that didn't get pollinated and it didn't take. And those have all been on the smart pot one. We've done nothing different here except planted it in a smart pot. On the left, the more traditional pot, I'm yet to see a single fruit actually show up to even try to get pollinated. It has just been a smaller plant that has not taken off nearly as well. So in our case, as we compare the two side by side, the proof is kind of in the pot when it comes to smart pot versus traditional pot. So there it is. If you're thinking of getting into container gardening, please do not discount the fabric smart pot option. Great move when it comes to getting bigger plants, growing them faster, and getting more out of them. Again, there are various sizes. You can take some pots that are wider and a little more shallow and just plant several plants around them. You can have deeper smart pots. You can get some with handles. You can get some that can be hung, and you'll get those roots kind of starting to grow at the bottom a little bit, breathing nicely. Lots of different options. We're going to put the link on screen for you to go check out all the different form factors you can on Amazon. Hope this has been helpful. I hope you get into smart pots, and I'd love to hear your results over time as you try it yourself. Thanks for watching this Misadventures in Gardening. Even though this was more of a awesome, successful adventure in gardening, I hope we'll see you for the next one.